We are back live from the HubCityDre, SadityCoCo. We have Michael Real in the building.
Good evening. Glad to be back.
Now, are you? You so switched up on us. You so switched up. I don't know if Miss Moore really knows you, but we have the lovely Miss Moore in the building. How are you today?
I'm great, and I'm
welcome
glad to be here. Thank you, Andre and Coco and Michael. I love you all so much.
I'm
love
glad
what
you can make it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah.
You look so nice. That picture that Dre picked didn't do you any justice.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I said the same thing I said to Michael. I said, Michael, where did he get that from? That is horrible.
Leave it up to Dre.
So, okay, now we have a topic that we're going to deal with today is holding elected officials accountable for their actions.
Yes.
And we invited you in. We thought that maybe you'd be a perfect person to talk about this issue.
Okay, I'm here. I'm ready.
If you're ready. So, you once served as a city council member.
Yes, I did for 4 years, 1989, 1993.
Do you feel like the values have changed from when you were in office to what they are now? Like just from the outside looking in for the people that are kind of in charge right now?
I see that what troubles me that I see is that there isn't this understanding to me between the public that we are empowered and elected to serve. The people give us the power. We have the privilege of knowing that I'm only here because of my electorate. That is why I'm here. And I was always reminded of that if I was at a city council meeting, we were serving and a citizen came up and they had an issue, to me that was primary. Above everything else, what my citizen had to say was critical, and that I had an obligation to handle that matter. We don't always see that now. We see the order of business superseding what the wishes of the people are. And when you get that and it's turned upside down and flipped, you have a population of people that, number one, are disheartened and feel disenfranchised, and they feel that the whole purpose and reason for elected officials kind of goes out the window. And that's what I wish. And it's interesting because even though I've been out of office quite some time, when I see people who knew me, they say, no one served like you did. No one cared. No one listened. No one exercised on our behalf the concerns that we have. And that's all people want. Mm-hmm. They just want to be heard, and they want to know that you hear them and that you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, now we're going to talk about this, but we kind of got pushed into it. Uh-huh. So,
and you know what I love about this? People, especially our people, we are the most judgmental, harshest. Mm-hmm. I've gone on with my life. As you say, I look good, don't I?
Right.
Turned 65 a couple of days ago and got the guys 20 years old hollering, okay?
Right.
But I thank God because I don't let what has happened to my life determine who I am or what I am. I know that Sweet Alice once said to me, she said, remember, there are two types of people. She said, all of us have done something. She said, but some have been caught and some just did not get caught. She said, so when people start pointing the finger at you, remember when they look at their hand, it's three pointing back at them. And I laugh when people do that because I've gone on with my life. And my life has turned out beautiful. My children are doing so well and they're so successful. And I've been so blessed. But when you allow your community or certain people in your community, I can't say my community, because when I'm in Compton, people love me. They don't say the stuff that this girl just called and said. Of course, she's from Inglewood. But the people in Compton have genuinely shown me love. And I love them because they know the kind of politician that I was. And the beautiful thing is the other day, one of them said to me, you can run for office again. You know that your charge had nothing to do with you being in public office. And I hadn't even thought of that. I'd forgotten that the charge that they brought against me had nothing to do with me being a public official.
Now, what was the charge? Can we talk about the charge?
You know what my attorney says to me? I don't even know what the charge is, Patricia. It was supposed to have been some form of embezzlement, something. But what it was I dated a man that was an undercover operative that the government had he was getting ready to serve time in Las Vegas, and they brought him here because they said, we target people and we need you to bring this person down. And they had profiled me and determined the only thing missing in her life is a man. And that's true, because all I'd done was raise my kids, go to school, work, and all that. So they put this man in my life, and for 4 years I dated him, thinking this was a man that loved me.
And you had no idea.
And I had no idea. And we didn't even know, my attorney didn't know till we went to trial, and they made the government produce him. And the government hid him until finally the judge said, no, you're going to produce this man. Okay. So, and then some lies came out. But what can you say? It happened.
And you were convicted.
And I was convicted. I served 3 years at a federal institution, and I'm so glad I did. I know that may sound crazy.
I can't even believe it. Like, I look at you now, and I'm like,
I know, huh?
Wow.
It's amazing, but they saved my life. I didn't. I thought I was okay, but when I went, the judge was so good to me. She sent me to a medical facility in Texas, and that's when they found out that I was developing cancer cells. And they brought in to this medical institution the best of doctors, the best forensic specialists. They brought in everybody. So for 3 years, they treated my body from head to toe, and that's why I look like I look. Had I stayed home and kept the pace I was going, I would have died. Because when I came home, all of my friends had died. They had died from cancer, heart attack, strokes. Wow. Because the things out here that we think are so important, that we get ourselves caught up in, the rat race that we live, it just manifests illness within us because we don't rest, we don't eat right, we don't take care of ourselves. And that's what I was doing. I was running here, running there, handling everybody's business but my own, and being a victim of abuse by the government with this man. I almost died, but had I not gone to prison, I would have died. So
that's the silver lining.
That is it.
3-year sentence.
Yeah, and the camp director said, "I'm so glad you're going home. You didn't cost us a fortune. We'll never want to see you again because you worked this system. Don't you tell nobody what you did, how you did it." But they took care of me. So this is it. 65, and I'm doing great, and I thank God. I don't have no cholesterol problems, no high blood pressure problems. I have no cancer. I have no nothing.
I got a chance to sit in on a city council meeting in Compton, maybe a couple months ago, and it was my first city council meeting ever, so it was really interesting. But there were quite a few people there that had a lot of things to say, and there were a few women there that you can tell they go regularly because they had some of the same issues, and they were very upset, because the same things that they were saying, it wasn't being acknowledged. And it seemed like most of the people on the council, majority of them, they didn't really care about what the people had to say, and they didn't even fake that they cared. It was just so nonchalant and so, just laid back. And there was a couple of times people, pointed certain people out and questioned them, told them, prove this as far as money. And I think it was the treasurer was one of the main ones. And it just seemed like nobody really cared. And it was just kind of sad to see that, for these people to come, from work or, drive over here and take their time to sit in these meetings and say what they have to say. Obviously, they really care. And for the city council to not show anything, it was pretty sad to see that.
It is very sad, and I get those same calls, and I've seen it, and I can't believe it. I just can't believe it, and I don't know, this apathy, this disinterest. I don't know where this comes from, because past councils were not like this. We listened, we cared, you could count on the fact that we would take your concerns and bring them back and address it, and we acknowledged you. But it is not the case today, and it has become a serious problem. And you're right, you're absolutely right, and I've heard it time and time again.
So why do you think these people are actually staying in the position that they're in?
I think many of them some are not prepared, and some, one young lady said something to me that you just said, do they care? How can you care and allow people to come before you and you not even give them any regard. And that's what's the question. Do you care? And if you don't care enough, or if you don't know how, ask for help. Ask somebody. Go and observe other council meetings. Go and look at your county supervisors' meetings. Watch the interaction between their leadership, that leadership and its public, and see how it's supposed to be done. So I don't know where this attitude comes from. I really don't. And I don't want to assume I know, because I really don't. I know it's foreign to me, and I know it's hurting our community.
Now, recently, some of our politicians or elected officials get into some trouble here and there. One of our board members for the city council, the Compton School Board, recently got arrested for a DUI. Alleged DUI, and a year prior to this, the same guy went on radio and called Trayvon Martin a faggot and said that he deserved to die. Give me your feedback on that response or that.
It's troubling. At best, it's very troubling. And I really believe that when we are put in a position of authority, that we have the responsibility of knowing what we say and being accountable to what we say. And either the board or the superintendent or whomever should talk to the board about some training, because obviously there's something lacking here. It's got to be clear with whoever is in public office that, number one, whatever they do affects everything they do and all the people that they have any relationship with. I think that an apology has come forth, but I think more than that, building trust is a very precious thing. And so there has to be somehow, some way, because remember now, when we go into office, we assume that everybody's ready for the job, and not everybody's ready, and some of us bring issues with us that we need to handle, that we need to address, and sometimes we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to ask for help. We don't know. So it's good to surround yourself with people who know how to help you, who can recognize your strengths and your weaknesses and help you change your behavior and your presence. It's very important. So I'm hoping that out of this, because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, we want to help and redeem, because all of us are valuable. Each one of us have a purpose and a mission on this life and in this earth. And so we need to find a way to help encourage one another. And if you know this individual and you know what this has done to them and to this community, then please, I ask you to go and share with this individual your concern and help them change their behavior.
And to you, good evening, Mrs. Moore.
Good evening.
Not only are we seeing this here in the local level, like we see here in Compton, but also in the past few months, we've seen elected officials from the U.S. Congress. We think of Jesse Jackson Jr., who took a tumble from grace. We remember the former mayor of Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, Marion Barry, who had a tremendous drug scandal. And just last week, we see even to the north of us, Mayor Ford of Toronto.
Yes.
What do you think is the genesis of these elected officials continually falling from grace in such a public manner?
I look at myself, and I felt the same pain, and I brought the same hurt in my family. And I know that oftentimes what happens is we're so busy doing that we don't have a perspective on what we're doing. And we lose sight. It's so easy to lose sight. And once something happens, then it's like a reality check, and like, my God, I had no idea that this could have led to this. And so that's why I said, there's a scripture that says, in a multitude of counselors, there's wisdom and safety. We dare not step out anymore alone. It's important. I'm sure that if Jesse Jackson Jr. could have had the wise counsel of his father, or friends that cared about him, that maybe this could have been avoided. But we're often out there battling and trying to make decisions on our own. And sometimes we cannot see the forest for the trees. And so I'm saying to every politician, it is good to have wise counsel. I look at people like our Assemblyman Isidore Hall, who has strived and worked hard and gotten where he is, and has done it beautifully, the way it's supposed to be done. Judge Kelvin Fowler, beautifully done it the way. These are people that, if you know them, listen to them. Find out, what did they do? Because instead of condemning someone, calling on the phone saying, you were this, and say, you know what, let me see how I can shape my life and help shape someone else's. Because if you fall, I'm next in line. What makes you any different from me?
Question for you before we let you go. I wanted to know if you ever thought about rerunning for office in the city.
I've been approached so much lately, just so very much. And, it's public office is a different animal now. It's not all that it appears to be. It's hard. It's difficult. It's challenging. It's, you're under a microscopic eye all the time. We know that African Americans particularly are targeted more than any other group. The more that you stand and try to change your community, the more you become a threat to this society. So there's a lot to be considered. I wouldn't do it the way I did it before, because I'm wiser now, as you can say and see. But, I haven't ruled it out, and I haven't really considered it. I've just been in a place where hopefully God can make the best out of my life with what I have left. And so that is my goal.